All right, welcome everybody to Algebra 1. So my name is Mr. Steiger and welcome for this year for 2021. I am located upstairs at Williamsfield High School in room 266. When you guys get a chance to come into person, you'll find me upstairs in the math wing. It's pretty simple how the school is set up as a giant L with some classes around the outside, but the math is on one wing and you guys will be able to find us. So it's a pretty simple thing. Again, my name is Steiger. It's pronounced S-Tiger like the animal. I have been teaching for 4 years, and all 4 years have been at Williamsfield High School. One of the things I want to know about you guys is in Canvas, there's a question I posted. Do you love math or dislike it, or are you somewhere in between? There are no wrong answers. The only wrong answer is not to answer this. Some of my students in the past have loved math, but most have actually hated it, especially in Algebra 1, because Algebra 1 is a touchy subject where you guys are on level, so you're not really great. Some of you may not be really great at math, some of you may really struggle with math, but no matter what, this is the first math class you can take in high school. And so I know there's a big range of students within this confines of this class where they'll understand some of the basics and sometimes you won't, and that's okay, because my goal is to help you love math more or to hate math less. The key thing is I've even had students say that they hate math but they love my class, which is weird, but I understand, because what it is they enjoy being here in my classroom in the environment that I create, but they still don't like math, and that's okay. What my goal is to make sure that you understand that you have 4 years of high school, most of you, left. And so what you're going to be doing within that time frame of high school is you're going to try to find out exactly where you're at and what you're doing. And math is the very first thing that you're going to be encountering, especially Algebra 1. And it does set you up for either success or failure for the next 4 years. And my goal is to set you up for success. All right, I'd like to introduce who I am. Starting with my work career, I grew up in the Midwest. This is the very first job I ever had, was at Kentucky Fried Chicken. This is actually, I believe, from Google Maps. The cool thing is that when that little car goes by, they rolled by and took a picture. I've even talked about I had this job when I was 16 years old, and what was cool about that job was I didn't actually have my license yet to drive, but I had a job. So for about a month, I had people driving me to and from work. And then another story I tell sometimes is how I don't care where you're at in life or what your goal is to do, but there was one gentleman I met when I was 16. He had to have been in his mid-20s, and he was content with working 2 jobs. He would open Kentucky Fried Chicken in the morning and then get off at about 3, eat something, and then he would go close Taco Bell at night. And so he actually worked between the two. And so what was interesting about him is he was in his mid-20s. He didn't care. Both of the schedules worked out for him. He lived on his own and he made it work. You guys can as well. Now, he worked probably about 80 hours a week, but he was doing things that he wanted to do, and kudos to him. After that, I moved, I stayed, and this is actually down the street a little bit. I went to a grocery store chain called Myers, which is kind of like our Fry's here, or Walmart. And then late junior year, I got in with my father at his business for Centerless Rebuilders, which is still around. The cool thing about that job is I was able to do drafting and kind of use my math skills and geometry, especially within this class, or within this working with my dad when doing drafting and schematics and all that stuff. After high school, I joined the Air Force. This is the jet I actually worked on. The tail number was 77139, so it was built in 1977, and it was one of the older jets that we had. There was a couple that were a little bit older than that, and this is in the late 90s, early 2000s that I worked on this jet. The cool thing about this jet is that it was one of the fastest ever, because it was a test jet and they put special engines in, F-22 engines in, and it was actually one of the very fastest fighter jets to ever be around. I did that for 8 years, and then after that I used my degree that was almost done just in math and science. I actually had more science credits than math, and I decided to do accounting work. I did accounts payable and then financial analyst for about 12 years at this company, and then I did stuff here for the dental practices where I controlled their finances. And the one reason I bring that up is because I know what it takes to start a business. When we first did this, this business, we purchased this business. I didn't get on the ground floor, but I did when we purchased this Creative Smiles, which is local, close to here, and then also Gilbert Dental, and then Arise. When we went into a group and we bought these dental practices, I was able to be in on the ground floor to kind of see how finances work, how to purchase something, how to reconcile accounts, how to use Algebra. I used it quite extensively, and that's one of the main reasons why I love teaching Algebra 1, is that you can use it in the real world. And I use it all the time, especially in finance. And as we go through this year, you guys will see that as well. And then I ended up, before I became a teacher, my last job was working for Gilbert Hospital, which is now closed. But you guys know the helicopter, right? It's off Power Road, right down the street. It's interesting seeing the development within that. I joined that hospital when it came out of bankruptcy the first time, and I saw the finances and the swell of cash that they got and all the vendors we had to pay, and basically I took in, I paid everybody, and it was very interesting to see how a business works from that side, where you want to have success, you push hard for success, but you don't always get it that way. And I know this hospital's been closed for about a year and a half. Big thing, will you be treated fairly in my class? The one thing I always want to make sure all students know is that you will be. However, my teaching style may not always agree with your personality, because I am straightforward and to the point. And I'll elaborate more on that in the future or in a little bit here, but I don't pull any punches. I will let you guys know that if you are misbehaving in my class, I'll call you out, tell you to stop. If you're being lazy in my class, I'll call you out and tell you to stop. If you don't like that, then you and I can have a personal conversation of how you will do that. But I've had many students in the past where I held, everybody holds me accountable. Your parents will hold me accountable. Principal, the administration will hold me accountable. So I hold you accountable to me and the stuff that I ask of you. I don't ask you to do too much, ladies and gentlemen, but what I do ask you to do, I expect you to do. And then here's what it is when we do get in here. Usually I have all notes standing on a music stand, but I also have everything on Canvas this year. I actually have every single note in Canvas. And so here's something I want to make sure all of you guys know in Algebra 1, is that I have offered you guys pre-printed notes, where I have notes for you on Canvas that you can print out at home and you can write on. But guess what? I know not everybody in here has the capability of printing out stuff, and that's okay. But what you can do is get a notebook and write down the examples in the notebook and leave yourself some space before we meet. What that will allow me to do is to teach you better, and so that way you can write things down, and if you struggle for an understanding, you can raise your hand within the classroom, and we'll talk about how to do that in a second, and ask questions. The big key thing is I want to make sure you guys understand that I'm here to help you out, okay? I'd want you to get in your seat before the bell rings now, when you get back, and then also we'll be putting our phones away. That's a school policy. And then get writing utensils out or notebook and be prepared to go. Usually I have music playing. We'll do a review for the day, and then we'll talk a little bit about the lesson. I've tried to narrow these lessons down and compress them enough that I give you information in about a 20 to 30 minute time frame. Usually it does go closer to 30 minutes, and then I give you about 20 to 15 minutes to work on Alex in class. Now, Alex, if you're new to the district, is our online learning tool. If you've been here as a veteran of our district, you know you've used it in middle school and possibly even elementary school. And ladies and gentlemen, we use it a lot in Algebra 1, and I'll explain why in a bit. All right, grading scale. We have chapter tests. End of chapter is 30%. Quizzes are 20. Your homework in Alex is worth 20% of your grade. And then you have weekly topics, which are 10, and then your midterm and final is 20. This is key, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't do your homework, or you don't do your Alex topics, that leaves you at a 70, and that's if you score perfect on everything else. The problem is that you're not, okay? So here's where I've got to make sure you understand. Here's how it works. Weekly topics, you guys know how that works. There's a path. It's a continue my path. That's in Alex. And then what happens is that when you're going through this, we assign you Alex homework. And then what I do is when we're doing notes, on the notes, I actually pulled homework questions and I pull them onto the notes. And so I show you guys the homework right here. Okay, so first off, we do notes in class. You can take those same notes that we did in class and you can use them on your homework. And then we take the homework questions that we give you. So usually we'll do about 4 lessons, okay, before we take a mid-chapter quiz. We will go through those 4 lessons that we give you and we will pull out the questions from the homework and we will put it in the quiz. Okay, so here's how it works. Okay, so we'll take the notes, have the Alex homework questions. The Alex homework actually has the question where you work on. We take those questions and we pull them and we put them in a quiz. And then we take the questions from a quiz and we put them into a test. So ladies and gentlemen, you see the questions during your notes, during your homework, during your quiz, and during the test. 4 times. My goal is that by the time you get to the test, that you have seen these questions and the responses 4 times. That is why we use Alex, okay? It builds up. It's a very smart way to learn. Yet, if you don't do the notes, okay, so if you don't do the notes, that's what you're only going to see it 3 times. If you say, I'll just do the homework, okay, you've still seen it 3 times. But what if you don't do the homework? Well, then you've seen it twice by the time you take a test. But by the time you take a quiz, you've only seen it 1 time. It'll be the first time you ever see it. So please don't wait until the quiz to actually see what the questions are. Pay attention on the notes, pay attention on the homework, and it translates to great grades on the quiz. Remind, please sign up. The code is A1WFHS. Simple enough for Algebra 1. Here's a one-stop shop for all of your video needs. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my YouTube channel at StigerMath. I've been doing this for 3 years. This year's no different. You can actually see I already posted Lesson 1, Chapter 1 for this year. It's not uploaded in Canvas yet, the links, but they will be. But no, everything that we're actually going to be doing is already up. So when we're doing learning expectations, I ask that you guys, I want to see your smiling faces. Okay, the main reason I want to see your smiling faces is to know that you're there. We've already had one wonderful freshman, and not in my class, but in another teacher's class, basically join the chat, join the classroom. The teacher was going through expectations, making sure students understood, and then he told everybody to go ahead and break off, and you can do your own thing. Just go on Alex and work on the knowledge check because everybody has an initial knowledge check. And then the one student stayed behind. 5 minutes pass. He finally jumps back on and says, hey, where did everybody go? That student basically logged in and left. Does that help him in his learning process? The answer is no, of course it does not. So please don't do that, ladies and gentlemen. We want to see you. But when we do, please dress appropriate. Use appropriate language. Raise your hand. Wait for the right moment if you want. There's a little hand icon. Everything is recorded, but it's recorded but not shown to public. It's recorded because we're on we may not be on campus, but school rules and consequences apply. I know last year we did have a student suspended because of actions that he did during a live session. So, ladies and gentlemen, be smart. Okay, we are in school, even though we're not. My goal is to make sure that I help out as many students as possible. So please, 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 please be smart. All right. Once we get going through we'll have some discussion, but not too much in here. But I ask that when we do give you a chance to speak, that's no yelling. Sarcasm can and will backfire. Most of the time, sarcasm, when you put it into a context of a situation, is not healthy or good. If you want to pause the video and look at this, you can. I'll make sure to back away on every one of these slides because I'm just going to paraphrase them and not go through them. Please don't use the chat box because it can be useful, but it can also be a major distraction if you are like hitting stuff all the time. Attempt to find the answer yourself first, okay? Be smart about how you do it and try to make sure that you guys can be successful. Use proper grammar, please, because we want to make sure. And then the main thing is that we have some people sometimes that are also known as grammar police, where they'll say, oh, it's your, don't you put your, you're supposed to put you are and put it like this. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be that person, okay? Now, I understand it'd be nice to do that, but don't be that person. I had a CFO, Chief Financial Officer, used to do that to me all the time, and it drove me nuts, which made me think he wasn't really paying attention, nor was he being respectful of me. And it bothered me, and it still does to this day. Set a respectful tone. So we're going to be talking about real life application in here. If you start blurting out stuff in class, it doesn't help you learn, and it can be a distraction to others, so don't do it. Submit files the right way. Everything is gone through Alex, okay? So we will have in Canvas, I will have assignments for you that say go to Alex and complete lesson 1.1 on your homework. And then what you'll need to do is go back into Canvas and hit submit. Now, the thing is that it's all through Alex, but I put it on Canvas as a reminder so it shows up on your to-do list, okay? So just go clear it out, and then read directions first. Don't simply just go through things, or if somebody says something in the chat, you don't go off the handle, because I want you to think before you type and be kind and professional, okay? This is an environment where not everybody, that we struggle with at times, where somebody might say something that offends you. Please make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you think before you type and that you're kind and courteous to everybody, because it's very important that we can have a substantial and great learning environment along the way. When we do return, a couple things. You can pause this and read it. Main thing is that this classroom is a no whining zone. That means that I don't want whining for any reason. Now, sometimes we run into challenges of life, and I understand that. But ladies and gentlemen, to be the same thing over and over and over, and then to come with a whining tone does not help you. Okay, so don't do that. You're almost adults, and this is where my teaching style comes into play. If you're being lazy, I'll call you and tell you you're being lazy. I work harder than most, and so I expect the same from you. I rewrote this curriculum over the spring and summer to make sure, because I was not sure what this fall looked like. But I knew when we were doing the virtual learning last semester, I was like, we were teaching students something, and then I'd show it on Alex, and the two weren't the same. Nobody was saying, well, I can't, you're teaching me something, but I go to Alex, and it looks completely different. How do I do this? So I rewrote the curriculum for the very last time, and I put Alex questions into your lesson notes so that when you do the homework, you can refer back to your lesson notes to do homework, and then you can study those to do the quiz, and then study those to do the test. Everything is intertwined, and it works perfectly. Okay, I want to make sure that you understand that I worked hard to create those so to help you succeed. All right, and remember, I do truly believe in everybody's potential, and I want you to believe in it too. I've had students in the past. One student, she's now a senior, she yelled at me 3 years ago saying she got a 75 on a test, and I told her, well, you scored a 75, but I know you could do better. And she was happy with that 75, but when I said the words, you could do better, she lost her mind on me and yelled at me. She yelled because she'd never passed math before in 7th or 8th grade, and she was getting a C in my class. And I told her, I said, whoa, pump the brakes. And we decided to talk, and I told her that when we first took an assessment at the beginning of the year till after the first quarter, we took another one, she had the highest percentage of growth. Because the way I was teaching her and making her believe that she could do it, she was going above and beyond even her own expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, I expect the same from all of you. It's going to be an awesome year no matter what, and we're going to learn a lot. And I will do my best to pump a lot of math information into you and to make sure that you guys can get it all done. If you ever have any questions, shoot me a remind or an email. But it's been my pleasure. I'm Mr. Steiger, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.